Okay, folks, welcome to another podcast, another edition of Time Lapse. Today we've got ClouDx, India's very own Dota 2 caster, who is tuning in all the way from the studio just one floor above me. We've also got Nishant Ahuja, part of the management. Hold on, wait.
Did did he just mute himself?
I think he did. Anyways, we've got Nishant Ahuja, part of the management of Signify. How's it going?
It's going good, man.
Okay.
Excited to be here. Yeah.
Okay. This is something that we're trying where we're just trying to take a look at the week in Dota every now and then. The last time we did one of these podcasts, we had Pasol from Signify join us. We also had paddling, but paddling sort of ditched us. And we're going to be doing another one this Friday with Noya and Hestejo Rotten, both from Entity. So do hop on for that one as well. That's Friday, day after tomorrow. Updates will obviously be coming out through social media. But this is more of a general fun podcast where we talk about all things relevant in Dota in Southeast Asia and India. And there's a bunch of stuff happening. I mean, Mineski just managed to tie the series 1-1 versus OG. And Nishant, I mean, you manage a team that's trying to make its mark in Southeast Asia. Could you tell us some of the difficulties of what does day to day look like?
Day to day for us, for Team Signify. I look at us as a team that is looking to cement the position in India and then ultimately represent Southeast Asia
Hmm.
at the larger events.
Hmm.
So I would say compared to a tier one team, we have a lot more to focus on.
Hmm.
I mean, you guys are well aware of we have a lot to compete for within our country itself this year. And at
Yeah.
the same time, there's a lot of C tournaments coming up here and there, and there are always the open qualifiers and things like that.
Hmm.
So day to day, there's no such fixed routine, but it's more seasonal, I would say.
Okay.
So right now there aren't many open qualifiers, and there aren't too many Indian tournaments going around.
Hey, wait.
So
Speaking of Indian tournaments, you guys did register for Gods of Gaming, right?
yeah, we did, and I think we've also had a game there, and
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Oh.
we did. I mean, we look at that as an opportunity to practice. I mean, we don't disregard good opportunity to play against good teams like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, so day to day right now for us is we're just looking to practice a lot, scrim as much as possible, learn more about our game and what we need to be doing and how to get to the next level. And we've recently had a roster change. So yeah, we're trying to find the right balance of players and trying to find the right roles, trying to adapt to the meta and things like that.
I
Yeah.
mean,
So
we've
yeah,
seen Negi and Moin both going full try hard, right? I mean, Moin he broke into the top 10 on the SEA leaderboards, which is a big deal. Honestly, I think that's the first time that's ever happened for Indian esports.
yeah, and then there was Swifty following him, not like a couple of hours later.
Oh, he made it to the top
So
10 as well.
yeah, Swifty did, and I think Swifty right now is top 10, and
Yeah,
Moen
Swifty
has
is still
fallen
top
slightly.
10, and Moin is now 20 or 30 or something.
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah, so yeah, I want to give it a hand it out to them. But those guys, my players are trying very hard. They're playing their hearts out every day,
Yeah, I know we
and
talked
yeah,
about how, Ahuja's feeding them some Chawanprash, some special brand of Chawanprash in the Signify house, and that's why they're performing so well. But yeah, I mean, full credit where it's due, man. They've been trying hard and it's showing.
yeah, I think yeah, what we've had. One thing I'm really impressed by them is the amount of motivation they've showed in the last 2 3 weeks.
Hmm.
Ever since we came back when they came back from Indonesia. Yeah, at that point, I think everyone had this consensus that something needs to be done. We need to try harder. We need to push harder.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's basically what we've been doing for the last couple of weeks.
So, I mean, having a sixth player on the team is not something that a lot of teams have done in the past. No one's ever done it really successfully for a long period of time. What's the vision with the sixth player?
From an organization point of view, I think we wanted more stability, and that was the only reason we decided to go for the sixth player.
Hmm.
Um, I think the players also understood why it was necessary. A lot of times, the six-player thing normally doesn't work is because the organization is not very transparent as to why they're doing it. They don't communicate well in the players as to why this is necessary, and the players are often not even part of the decision making. With
Okay.
us, it was slightly different. I think it was a participative decision, and everyone had a say in it. Everyone was on the same page. Everyone was well. He laid the law down in front of everyone, saying why we're doing it, and why it's necessary,
Mm-hmm.
and how everyone has to play a role in this. So that's why it's worked well for us. And yeah, a lot of times people assume that okay, there's six players, so someone's getting kicked, and someone's not performing well enough, and someone's not doing things the right way.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't always have to be like that. I would say. I would say it's more depends from organization to organization. I think one of the very first things we understood was that every organization is different. You
Okay.
can't look at someone else and say we can't do this because they're doing this, or we should do this because they're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the situation called for it, and everyone fairly understood why it was happening and why we needed to do this,
Mm-hmm.
which is why we had no problems going ahead with it.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning that you're one of the few teams that in SEA that loves to have a sixth player. You'll have done this with Blizzard, and now Blizzard is, I mean, he was a sixth back when X-Rag or One Blue were a part of the squad, and I mean, now he's firmly found his position in the roster. He pretty much shines in every game, and you'll have made that sixth player work. You spoke of how every organization is different, and like, I mean, there's no one blanket standard operating procedure for every esports organization. It doesn't work like that. But you also spend some time abroad, where I believe you interned with Liquid. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, I did more of some freelance work than actually an internship.
Okay.
But yeah,
So
and this was long ago. I would say this was about more than a year ago, before even Signify came into existence.
right. So I mean, like,
Yeah.
from your learnings from seeing so much of the international Dota 2 circuit, could you share how some of these organizations run themselves? Like, I remember you telling me that Mineski and Fnatic don't even scrim as much as, say, the other teams.
Yeah. So again, how I would divide this is there's two tiers of organizations. There's the tier one, the absolute best players in the world that you see competing at majors and minors and traveling all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they don't have as much time as tier two teams do.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people underestimate the amount of traveling and the amount of logistics that go behind these teams. So from my experience, European teams normally don't have a permanent boot camp. What they do is they go down to the country that they're supposed to be playing in maybe 2 3 weeks in advance, get themselves settled in, and then they do a boot camp for 2 3 weeks just before a tournament to get themselves used to playing as a team, to get used to the meta and things like that. And they spend the rest of the time maybe playing the qualifiers from their own homes and spending time with their families and friends and things like that. But when you look at Southeast Asia, it's quite different. I would say Southeast Asian teams do like boot camping a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They are strong as a community where they're able to put their personal commitments aside and dedicate themselves entirely to the game and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. These are some differences that I've noticed. And yeah, like you mentioned earlier, every organization is different.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
What yeah,
I don't think there's any single right or wrong way to do it, right? I mean, sure, for
yeah,
Europeans, because
absolutely.
of
There's no right or
cultural
way.
ways, because of the way they've evolved, because of the way Dota has evolved in that side of the world, it makes sense for them to be at their own homes and then group up for a boot camp. But yeah, like you said, Southeast Asians in general, we've
Yeah,
all grown up with the LAN cafe culture, and it still hasn't
yeah,
died in Southeast Asia for the most part. So a boot camp is nothing but a more organized version of a hardcore LAN cafe.
yeah. Yeah, and a lot of people often have the misconception that it's sort of a team bonding thing. You need to be living together 24/7 to be able to work as a team and things like that. I would say that's not necessary. As long as you have a professional attitude, as long as you're able to separate yourself, as long as you're able to deliver what is needed, regardless of what the situation is like. I think yeah, you don't. There's no hard and fast rule about the way teams function.
Okay.
So
Yeah, Vivek, you and I have always been talking about how, even though individual players are doing so well on the Indian circuit, like look at this, Swifty and Moin, they've recently crossed into the top 10. We're yet to see a team get to that point, where they're where they're really competing versus Southeast Asia, let alone the rest of the world. I
Mm-hmm.
want to ask you, Nishant, what do you think, in your opinion, is missing? Why are we not there yet? Because clearly we're really skilled, our players are really good. What's missing?
I think it's the exposure. I think it's the lack of opportunity to play against these best teams that was missing so far. Believe me, I think yeah, we made it to two regional qualifiers in the last year. One was an Indian qualifier, and one was an open qualifier with over 1,000 teams. But yeah, the moment we went into the regional qualifiers, we noticed that there was a big difference in the way Dota is played out there. Yeah, there's a big difference between an average everyday scrim or a casual tournament versus a regional qualifier.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this is something we saw back in the Beyond Infinity days as well, when these guys did manage to get to the regionals, and then there was a stark difference in the gameplay. So this is exactly what we're aiming for. We are nowhere near satisfied with just getting to regionals and then not performing our hearts out and things like that. Our next aim is to do well in a regional qualifier, and for that we need to get to a regional qualifier. And I would say over time that's how it's going to get better. I mean, the more we push ourselves, the more we go through the open qualifiers, the more we get to play in the regional qualifiers or against teams that are in the regional qualifiers.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it's going to get better.
Hmm. I mean, yeah, me and ClouDx, I mean, we always have this conversation as to like what do we need to get there. And I remember having this conversation with Balaji when Beyond Infinity just started. He said that Southeast Asia, I mean, teams play a much faster pace of Dota. I don't know if Beyond Infinity scrimmed as much and put in as much effort as Signify because, well, I wasn't very much part of the scene. Maybe ClouDx can shed some more light
No,
on that.
they did actually put in a lot of effort from what I could tell. They had a,
Did they
I mean, it
scrim?
wasn't
Did they
as from,
scrim as much?
they did scrim quite a bit, but it, if anything, I'd say it wasn't as organized as what a pro team is like today. So Beyond Infinity and by extension Entity Gaming, right? I think the entity of today and the entity of the Beyond Infinity era are miles apart. You can see a fair bit of professionalism coming in with entity today. You can see a fair bit of seriousness coming in. They've sort of prioritized. They made a bunch of mistakes along the way, but they learn from their mistakes, and I think that's what's important is that they've kept going forward. It's the same with Signify, right? So Signify kind of got a chance to pick up from where Entity made their mistakes. They learned from the mistakes of others that have burnt their fingers, and now because those mistakes aren't being made again, I'd say that we're starting off from a position that's a lot further ahead. And it's like Nishant was saying, it's a matter of simply playing scrims, playing regionals, playing officials as much as you can, using the learnings from that, being professional about it, and trying to get better.
Right. I mean, I at least feel that from then to now, this is probably a good reminder that we should all silence our phones. But from then to now, I've noticed that whenever I tune into what Signify play, any team, the Prime NND or Neon Gaming or TNT or even Entity for that matter, or DTN, I won't put
Now you're just stringing together random alphabets. I don't think I've heard of half. What's a TTN? Is that really a team?
TNT and DTN.
TTN, okay.
DTN
Yeah,
is
Red
Detonate.
P, my favorite team in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, one of my favorite teams. But yeah, I mean, when I tune into what Signify play any of these teams, and I think even the players and the management feel this way. I mean, they all feel like they've got a shot at beating these teams, and they beat these teams multiple times. I've seen Signify beat a lot of these teams. Alpha Red, or they put a good fight with the tier 2 teams in SEA. But I think for the longest time, I mean, we're seeing this even internationally, right? SEA could never really compete with Western teams or Chinese teams until someone like Demon, somebody who's played, I mean Demon or even 1437, somebody who's played at the highest level came down and had that knowledge transfer at like what it means to play Dota at that highest level.
Yeah,
And
you got it right. I think I kind of get where you're going. I think you're going to build on a point where you need a coach to come in and try and take them beyond where they're
I
already
think
stuck.
a
Right?
coach or a player who's had that kind of experience who can take them to the next level. I mean, so TNC got that with 1437, and I've 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 been casting a lot of TNC with 1437 and before. I mean, before when he was around and after when he was
Yeah,
no more part of
I
the
don't.
team.
Hold on. I don't think it's fair to simply give 1437 all the credit for that.
No,
So
no, I'm
I
not. I'm
think
not giving him the credit, but there was enough knowledge transfer for TNC to
sure,
be the kind
but
of team that challenged Liquid. Now I don't remember the name of that tournament, but they gave a heck of a series to Liquid, which
I
so
think MDL
TNC's.
Macau. I'm
I
not
think a
wrong.
lot of TNC's learnings came from ever since Demon moved to Southeast Asia to play with TNC right early on. I
right,
think that's when the first bit of knowledge transfer started happening.
right,
And immediately when Demon comes in, the lines of communication between the East and the West open up. So if TNC ever wants to pick someone's brain in the West, they've got that route now through Demon,
Right.
which is probably by extension why they managed to pick up someone like 1437 in the first place.
Yeah.
And sure, knowledge transfer was a big part of it, but full credit to TNC, man.
Absolutely.
We know
It's
what the situation is like in the Philippines. You see videos of guys sitting in underwear in land cafes, screaming, shouting, "Gago, putang ina mo," and all.
Mhm.
But when it comes to playing pro Dota, those guys give it their all, regardless of infrastructure issues, salaries, boot camp, blah blah blah, and they'll come out on top. That never say die attitude is something that I really admire in Filipino Dota.
yeah.
And I would also like to add over here that the organizations play a big part.
Yeah.
The people supporting them play a big part. I mean, the reason TNC is where it is today, I would say a big hand goes to their manager and people behind the scenes who actually took the first step of even bringing Demon in there and then building off that. None of that would have happened if the management wasn't on the same page as the players and they didn't go ahead and do that for simply maybe cutting corners, saying we're a Filipino team. Why should we get a player from the West? How do we use him and how do we build off him and how do we go to the next level?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say since the region has opened up, since that thing has happened, it's not just TNC. There's a few organizations that I can think of that are more open towards bringing in ideas and players and things like that from the West.
Hmm.
So yeah, a lot of credit goes out to the organization behind TNC and behind. There's multiple that I can think of.
Yeah.
Clutch Gamers, for example, Execration, a lot of C
Geek Fam.
teams. Yeah, Geek Fam. Yeah, they're open to taking the next step when it comes to doing what's best for their team and for the players.
Hmm. Uh, I mean, so yeah, since Signify, I mean, like Signify has definitely come a long way. I mean, I can say with conviction, and I'm not saying this with any bias as being an Indian or anything, but I can confidently say that we can very well compete in tier two in Southeast Asia. Uh, what do we need to go to tier one? I still don't know. Maybe somebody who's played that kind of Dota can maybe help us. I again think like how TNC got access to the West. We need somebody to help give us access to tier one. I don't know what the answer is, but I very confidently feel that tier two Southeast Asia, like JDL League or even open qualifiers, we usually go a long way. And I don't know. Do you think maybe what we need is a coach for us to go to the top tier in Southeast
Um,
Asia? Do you think a coach would make a difference? Do you think it's still too early?
it would, and yeah, there's two halves to that. There's no exact time. There's no exact answer to say when you can bring in a coach and when would be the right time and the most appropriate time for the team.
Hmm.
With regards to my team, what I can tell you is we had a roster change where we brought in Pasol and Negi from Aggressive 5.
Hmm.
Two very good players who have been competing in India for a long time and things like that. Now,
Hmm.
finally, we have the right set of players. We have things going for us. To be honest, as a manager, I expected a sort of transition period where the foreigners left my team and they went to other teams went to play for other teams in Southeast Asia, and
Hmm.
then we're bringing in an all-Indian squad and things like that. But that didn't really happen with Signify. We hit the ground running. I
Hmm.
mean, immediately we caught up in the Joint Dota League and we started beating teams like WG Unity and took a game of Entity and some big names like that. We won a game against Happy Feet, for example. And this was all in the 2 weeks that followed just after Parcel and Negi moved into the boot camp.
Yeah.
So we hit the ground running. Next month, we had a very hectic December month where we had the ASA Predator League and we had the ASL India Premiership. At the same time, there were qualifiers for WSG and things like that. And we didn't have much time to settle in. These guys just hit the ground running, and the results were in our favor. We were winning everything.
Hmm.
And from an organization, I could not have asked for more. Then there was a period after we won the ESL India Premiership for 2 weeks where we were scrimming and practicing for WSG and Indonesia. That is where I think the patch changed slightly and heroes started getting banned out and we had to expand the hero pool slightly and we could not capitalize on that.
Okay.
And yeah,
Was this just? I mean, so your
this was
success
in the
was
end of 2017. Yeah, so I would say before the end of 2017, up till I think up till after the ASL India Premiership,
okay.
we had things going in our favor. Then we had to adapt our game slightly. This is where I would say we could have done more.
Okay.
We could have done more to improve our game slightly or change it up slightly before we
Hmm.
went into China, and that is what set us back at that point. Um, like I said, bringing in a coach and bringing in things like that, it all goes from an organization to organization. It differs at every stage.
Hmm.
But yeah, over here, I think once we get back to speed, once we get back to the level that we want to compete at, which is at least going up to the level where we can beat tier two teams and can perform well in the Joint Dota League and can perform well in the open qualifiers and things like that,
Hmm.
then yeah, maybe perhaps the answer is to bring in a coach at that point to take it to the next level and to bring it up to tier one teams.
Hmm.
But yeah, before that, there's a lot of work that needs to be done before that. And this is regarding my team. I cannot answer for any other team.
Hmm.
But there is some work to be done before that. There is some work to you need to give you need to outline some work for the coach to do before you bring him in. You can't just bring him in and be like, yeah, here's what you need to do. It's my team, and they're not able to go to tier one for this season. You need to give him some. You need to cut out his work for him, and that's where we're at now.
Okay.
Where we need to do a little more ourselves. Um, uh, Figure out what's going wrong. Figure out what we need to do more, or what we need to do to better our game and things like that, and then build off from there.
Okay. I'm going to move on to our next topic, and this is something that's somewhat close to CloudX and I mean it is. We have a personal stake in it because well we took part in that competition as well. But yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about Tea Time now. For those of you that don't know, Tea Time is a caster from the other side of the border from Pakistan, and Epicenter organized a open caster competition. The winner actually gets a slot. To cast Epicenter XL from the LAN itself, and a bunch of people took part. We took part as well. Now, Tea Time said something, and he received a lot of backlash for that. I mean, the community just ripped him to shreds.
I'm completely. I don't know the story. I missed something. It seems
Wait,
like
what? You really
I'm not
missed
You
aware.
this?
really?
Yeah, it's the first time hearing about this. I know that he was doing well. I mean, I saw the epicenter post. I
Okay.
did watch his catch, and I saw people voting for him. Like, yeah, we want to watch more of tea
So,
time and things like that.
long story short, he's a Pakistani caster who, um, I mean, he kind of flamed, no, well, not flamed, but he sort of said something against Admiral Bulldog, and Reddit and the rest of the entire English-speaking Dota community got really pissed off,
Yeah.
and they basically put his head on a stake and smacked him in the face. It
I
was
mean,
nasty.
I
It
think
was it was it was horrible to
Yeah.
watch because it just snowballed out of control. Um, then there were some questionable actions on his part as well, uh, which he then apologized for eventually. But I think by then it was too late. You know how Reddit and you know how the community can be
wait,
sometimes, right?
wait, wait.
Like
I mean, his apology is also remarkable. I mean, there are a series of multiple tweets going on about this, but I
When did all of this happen?
it
what?
happened during the epicenter casting contest. So
I mean,
I mean,
last I
look,
know that he was doing well. I mean, there was that post, and people
he's
are like, yeah, we want to watch more ESL tea time. And
he was a
after
good
that, I guess they
caster.
just missed out.
I
Yeah.
mean, he was a good caster. I had the pleasure of co-casting with him once upon a time. He's actually helped us out in the past with ESL games as well. Um, he I think somewhere along the way he decided, he doesn't want to just restrict himself to Dota, so he started casting Counter Strike as well. I really don't know what happened in that space because I didn't follow him too much. But when he came back to Dota, honest opinion, it felt like he was a little bit rusty. It felt like he hadn't kept up with the game too much. But since there was an opportunity to cast Epicenter, the casting contest, he gave it a shot, got through, made it to the regional qualifiers. But I think when you come in with little to no authority on the game, when you come in with the perception on you that you're an outsider because your accent isn't exactly in line with what the rest of the English speaking Dota world expects, and B, because everyone knows you've kind of come from Counter Strike now, there's going to be a lot of eyes on you, and every little mistake you make is going to get amplified. Unfortunately, that's exactly what happened, and the worst bit is that he picked he picked Bulldog of all people.
Yeah, you picked a community favorite. I would say, yeah, you
And
don't pull moves like that
the
unless you're at.
what's worse is, okay, so the Bulldog Brigade definitely ripped him to shreds, but what's worse is I believe he's part of the ESL MCN, the multi-channel network, and he's affiliated with the ESL in some way or the other. And this happened just shortly after ESL got a lot of flack for doing Facebook streams and for DMCAing the
Yeah.
smaller guys. So I mean, you couple those two
Yeah.
together, and it was basically a
Yeah,
shitstorm just
I mean,
waiting to happen.
so the thing is, the reason he flamed Bulldog is because he was casting OG versus Bulldog's team, and Bulldog was streaming his own game, and Bulldog had a lot of viewers, and like Nishant mentioned, he was
Yo,
streaming.
wait, hold on. I'm going to stop you. I don't think it's fair to say that's the reason he
I
flamed
mean,
Bulldog.
that's
You know
uh,
how it is as a caster, right? Sometimes you speak before you think, especially as amateur casters like us. Sometimes you speak before you think, and by the time the words have left your mouth and your brain goes, "God damn, I made a
Yeah.
mistake," you're like, "It's
yeah.
too late."
The thing
I
is, I
think
mean,
that's exactly what happened with him. I think he was just trying to fill blank space, and he ended up saying what was on his mind, or at least at the back of his mind, and then he realized, "God damn, I made a mistake." After he said it.
yeah, the point was he didn't take it too well when he got feedback. That
That
really
I think
just
that's the
Yeah.
yeah,
that
that's the
that
kicker.
yeah,
I
that
mean,
really killed his chances. And I
yeah,
mean,
I think, yeah, ideally what he should have done is just explain his point of view. Like, yeah, this is what I meant to say. This is what I ended up saying. This is not what I meant. And yeah, hats
He
off to
did that.
Bulldog. He's a
He
great,
did.
great entertainer, great personality. And yeah, just basically explain his point of view. I mean, I don't know how he did it, but yeah, when you're
He
getting
did it,
flack from
but
the
a
community
little
like
too late.
that,
I mean, the
uh,
first thing he said was the hashtag fan logic tweet. That was,
no.
I don't know, man. I
so
think
I
if the community is wrong, and I mean, if the community is loud and wrong, you still don't call them out for it. That's just, I mean, that's like trying
It's,
to fight
I
an
mean,
angry
you'd
mob
rather
with
go with a agree to disagree approach. Fair enough.
exactly.
You guys are right in your own way. This is what I meant, and I'm sorry if it caused anyone any harm. Yeah, but it's okay. I mean, I hope the best for him, man. He was not a bad caster. I enjoyed watching his cast once in a while.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
do hope
but
the best for him.
I
And I
mean, for
mean,
someone, yeah, someone who's not in SEA, finding regional casts is quite hard. I mean, you guys do regional qualifier casts. He was someone else who also did it. So yeah, I hope this doesn't set him back too much and he continues casting.
I think the bigger issue is now you're always going to have people hiding behind that layer of anonymity coming on his chat and, shit talking. It's hard to
oh yeah,
find people that are going to help him dig him out of
Yeah.
this. But who knows, man? I mean, maybe you can just grind your way out of it, right? I mean, one
No,
example of someone that did this is Kelly from Alliance. I don't know how many of you guys remember like the whole old school drama about Kelly and how, everyone on the internet was like, oh, Kelly's a bad person. Oh, Kelly's this, Kelly's that.
yeah,
But
it did. I
Kelly
mean, yeah,
put her
getting
head
flack.
down. She farmed. She basically came out on top. And I mean, at the end of it, she today she's a fairly well respected personality in esports. She was / is the manager of Alliance, and she's a respected person in the world of esports.
Yeah, I mean, getting flack is not something that's not new to esports. People have been getting flack for the longest time. There's people like there's another SEA caster. I can't really remember his name. People really make fun of his Asian accent.
Cyclops,
Caster Cyclops.
yeah,
Yeah.
ex-god.
I mean, ex-god. Yeah. I mean, I think he's a fantastic caster. I mean, if you put aside his way of speaking and the way he casts games, if you actually focus on what he's saying and his game knowledge and the kind of things he shares with his viewers, I think he's a fantastic caster, and
I
he
think
has gotten to where he is today because of hard work and because he was able to persevere through the flack people are throwing at him. He had a lot of people discouraging him along the way and things like that. But look at where he is now. He's casting Dota 2 minors, and I would say he's fairly made it, and he's continuing to work hard every single day.
I think Cyclops shouldn't have focused on being a caster. He should have gone the action slacks route. The guy is witty as hell. He's got some of the most hilarious jokes I've ever heard in Dota. I mean,
He,
when someone
is
calls
entertaining,
the
yeah, he is
Barack Obama, you just tip your hat to that guy. He's that genius. Okay, I mean the guy is hilarious. His forte is to be that funny co-caster, to be that funny guy who's making fun content. I think someone should have been there guiding him, telling him, "Dude, you got to do this. Don't be a play-by-play caster. That's not your thing." But
yeah, maybe play-by-play is not his thing, but yeah, but the point I was trying to make is that yeah, he did get to where he is because he was able to take the flag that people are throwing at him. He did a lot of people discouraging him, and he was able to power through that and ultimately make it into whatever he was trying to make it into. So yeah, this is basically for everyone out there that if you're getting flagged, people don't always agree with you, and people are bullying you and things like that, and telling you that you shouldn't do this. This is what you should be doing. You do what you think you're good at, and if you're good enough, you will make it there someday. It doesn't matter what other people think.
mhm.
Yeah.
okay. Let's move to something a little closer to home. The Esports Federation that Ronnie Screwvala is forming. I don't know. Have you read this? Or you aren't getting
Mm,
any of the Indian masala? Okay.
I am not. I mean, Esports Federation. I mean, last I heard was
So,
Ronnie
so Ro-
Suara had a TV show, and yeah, that's.
I mean, yeah. So he had a TV. There was U Cypher, and it's still going on.
I
Uh,
think the finals are tonight in
yeah.
like 15 minutes.
My brother's watching it. I mean, he's the only one who watches. My mom and my brother watch it a lot. But yeah, so Ronnie Screwvala wants to form an esports federation. There isn't much going on about it, but from whatever little we know, which came in an article in Economic Times in Bombay, is that he wants to train and send Indian athletes for events abroad. I mean, very little information. Apparently, we already have an esports federation which is meant to be sending people abroad. Uh, do you think esports needs government regulation in India? Do you think government regulation is actually going to help?
Um,
As a
eh, yeah, I feel very strongly about this. I think esports does need to be recognized.
hmm
Definitely across any country, across any region, esports does need to be recognized. I mean, we're at a point where in the USA they do recognize it now.
hmm
Athletes in the USA can get an athlete's visa for esports.
Okay.
That's how American organizations are bringing in hundreds of League of Legends players from Asia, from Korea, and things like that. Without the government recognizing it, it will not be possible. Similarly, we have
So hold
something
on.
similar going on
So
in
if
Germany, right?
if if I'm an Asian and I want to go to America, if I'm Korean and I want to go to America to play a league tournament or something, I
Yeah.
can actually apply for something called an athlete visa.
Yes, yes, you can. I mean, that's how Abed went to USA and played for Onyx or Digital Chaos or whatever that was. I
Huh.
remember helping.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can do that now.
yeah,
But
and yeah. So basically, there's something similar going on in Germany as well. 2 3 years ago, Germany came up with a ruling saying we are not going to recognize esports. Esports is not a sport, and athletes cannot apply for an athlete visa.
Okay.
But I mean, Germany, because they see people like Mercedes Benz and people like Audi and things like that are sponsoring and taking a big part in esports, and we need to make esports a part of the circuit right now. They went back on the regulation and said, yeah, if it's legitimate enough, we will recognize your visa, or we will recognize your status as a professional player or an organization or things like that.
hmm
And yeah, so they also had enough flexibility to go back on what they had ruled on earlier, and that has helped them. You have a similar thing going on in Philippines now,
hmm
where
I
yeah,
mean, look, the only advantage I can see of I'm going to take a slightly different stance here. I think, sure, there are merits and demerits to having a body that regulates esports. One of the big merits, like you said, is visas and inter-country travel for tournaments and whatnot. But let's be real here. Who has trouble apart from Pakistan getting a visa to India for anything?
getting legally is a challenge. I mean, it's not just visas. I mean, I'm looking at it from so you look at any sports, right? There is a regulating body. At some point, you are going to have bureaucratical differences. At some point, there are going to be disputes. At some points, you are going to want to recognize you want your state to recognize an event that you're doing, for example, or um, just you want to make business. You want organizations to be able to deal with each other in a professional manner without having to go through gray areas and loopholes and things like that.
hmm
So yeah, I mean,
I think
I feel
so.
fairly strongly about this that I think that some regulation is necessary. Right now, if you see the esports scene in Southeast Asia, I don't know if you guys already know this, but it's not very professional. You still have players, for example, walking out of contracts and
Black.
companies, organizations. We can't speak about black. We don't know the facts behind it, but yeah,
Yeah.
I can think of few
Exactly, we don't
instances
know.
where I know players have said, "Yeah, go do your worst. I'm leaving the contract. Go do your worst." And there are sponsor deals that have gone bad, for example, and organizations have fallen on the wrong end of things like that.
hmm
So have had legal trouble, we have had regulatory trouble before, and yeah, there have been instances that I can
How
think of.
how would a regulatory body fix that? I mean,
I
look,
mean,
Ace existed in China. Ace tried to ban the Wings Gaming players from playing any tournaments in China, and then Valve said, "To hell with you! This is my game, and I want Wings Gaming's players to play." Like,
Uh,
I don't see how a regulatory body fixes any of that. They can't enforce contracts. They can't. I mean, at best, a regulatory body that's government recognized may be able to add legitimacy to events and may be able to help with visa issues. What I so the approach that at least what's been published in the Economic Times is that Mr. Ronnie Screwvala wants to have a body so that players can go abroad and play. I'm gonna quickly pull up the announcement as well to confirm what it was, but I don't think. I mean, isn't that what open qualifiers are for? Why do you need a body to basically go abroad?
We don't need it for that purpose. I'm looking at it from a point of view that makes esports organizations and the scene more professional, and that's
Yep.
about it. We don't need it to send players outside
Yeah,
India.
that I mean, sure, if a regulatory body exists in India, and if it's adding legitimacy to world-class events happening in India, that's fantastic. It helps take
I
off
would think
the.
I would appreciate a larger picture. I would say something like a UEFA for that is there for football, where you have a European federation. I would look at it as a Southeast Asian federation, for example.
Yeah, that makes
That
more
is
sense.
something that could help. That is something that says that where all the organizations sign up and say, yeah, this is what we're going to be doing, and this is what we should be doing. This is how, for example, a player trade takes place. For example, let's say that yeah, if you want your player to transfer between clubs, this is the correct way to do it. Things like that are going to help. I mean, yeah, finding an organization to send players abroad, I don't know what that does.
Exactly.
Right now,
I mean,
players can go abroad regardless of
exactly,
whether
right? Like, so I think
I think what
obviously,
you're
you can't discredit them because
so what I'm in
at the end
favor
of the
for,
day, a
yeah,
guy like Ronnie Screwvala is a very successful businessman. He clearly knows what the fuck he's doing more than we do, right?
yeah,
Maybe not in the esports space, but in general business and in general administrative work. You can't go out and say, oh, Ronnie Screwvala doesn't know what he's doing. The guy
I mean,
clearly knows what he's doing.
I'm also
But
not even on the right. I don't think if I'm the right person to answer this question because I don't know what the announcement is or what he's promised to do. So I cannot speak at all as to whether he's right or wrong.
that said,
Yeah,
I think they have a certain amount of bias coming in because so their entire background, their entire exposure to anything that's similar to esports has been in the form of traditional sports. And in traditional sports, most traditional sports at least, the concept of an open qualifier doesn't exist. So if an Indian team or player has to play in an international tournament, you have to have some sort of network and pull to get a slot per se to get your team in there. But with Valve titles, at least, it's so easy that you basically sign up on Faceit or So Strong or whatever the platform, whatever the game is on,
yeah,
and you sign up. If you're good enough, you're going to get there. The
yeah.
only
You are.
bottleneck will be a visa, and that's something maybe a regulatory body will be able to help you with.
Yeah, for that purpose, I would say so. Yeah, but when you're talking about a federation, it's slightly different. A federation, basically, in essence, what it is, it's a set of people agreeing to do business in a certain way. That's
Yep.
basically what a federation is, and that I'm in favor of.
I think
Yeah.
it's too soon for India to have one of those, but I agree with you. I think Southeast Asia, the entire Asian circuit, could use something
Yeah.
along these lines.
Europe already has it. I mean, there are strict norms or there are strict practices that have been laid out for organizations. For example, this is how sponsor deals are supposed to go down. This is how player deals are supposed to go down. If you need help, this is what you're supposed to do.
Mhm.
So, yeah, something like that would definitely help.
But basically, you're asking for legislation and structure to transfers to sponsorship
More
deals.
than that, I'm just asking. I'm just asking for teams to sign up and agree to do things in a certain way. A common set of principles that every team adheres to.
Okay.
Yeah, that is something that helped football. That is something that helped cricket, and that is
Yeah.
something I'm
And
certain would help
I
esports as
mean,
well.
yeah, definitely. But I have to ask. I don't know if what Ronnie Screwvala is aiming to start will be addressing these issues that you mentioned. I think agreeing to do business a certain way is fair. It's good to have standard practices as to the way business works in esports. But is he even the right person? Is the question. I mean,
I think so. As long as they can maintain objectivity and not turn it into, this is my way to establish myself as the big player and stomp out the competition. That's great. I think if you have every single prominent event organizer in the country, which is your Nodwins, your Cobex, your Cypher, to whoever else decides to say has the bag of cash and has a little bit of experience to pull off something like this. I think everyone should have some sort of check marks to hit before they can be part of this federation. It should be open to all. It shouldn't be this closed ecosystem where you sort of make a monopoly or an oligopoly just because you're part of a
Yeah,
federation. I
I mean
think if that
that's basic
objectivity,
business ethics. Yeah,
yeah, if that objectivity can be maintained, I'm all for it. But Not at this point. I still think it's too soon. We're regulating peanuts right now.
In
There's no
India, yeah.
immediate.
In India, yeah. I mean, yeah. Maybe in a couple of years where we have a lot of professional organizations, professional teams, and increase in the number of pro players, then yeah, we might do something like that.
You know how the whole Dota meme has win a TI before you talk, right? India should have like a win a TI before you make an organization or before you make a federation. Or
Fair
not a
bit of
TI,
federation.
but host something big. Host
Yeah.
something that has international eyeballs
I
looking at
think
it.
that's
Then we can
also
say
what
we
we're
get
looking at. Yeah.
legitimacy.
Yeah. Basically what we're looking at right now is a huge area in Indian esports, where I'm hoping that the platform for these players and for teams is going to be there. So basically, a couple years from now, I do hope that players and people will see the opportunity and actually have an established platform where they can actually make something of it. That is when something like that is necessary.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, we have the numbers, we just don't have the right infrastructure, the platform, or the basically road to TI is one way to put it. Yeah. So
Even
when the road to TI is there, when people are making more of it, and then the
I don't know if road to TI
ecosystem
is the
is
best way
healthy.
to say it. I think because the road to TI essentially depends on how good you are, right? I think that exists. For that, you basically need an internet connection, good computers, and decent skill sets. That's something that we have two out of three
Um,
things.
we do, but one another thing in today's date, if you want to make it to TI, you do need support to be able to do this along with whatever other commitments that you have. That is not something that's there.
I
I
honestly
mean,
think India has it a lot more cushy than any of the other Southeast Asian nations today. I think we've been mollycoddled a bit too much. I think what we receive in India for being an esports player is a lot more than what something like an MVP or something like a even a Mineski or a TNC for that matter received before they made it big. And I think that's fine because if we can make the most of this opportunity right now and a team actually gets to TI, it's all worth it. But I don't
mm,
think we should be using the lack of support or parents as an issue.
um, where I'd like to add to that and say that only exists the kind of support that you're saying that only exists for the top tier of teams. I mean, I have two players in my team, Pasol and Negi, who had to play for almost a year and a half without a sponsor, without salaries, without support from their families, in addition to doing whatever they had to do for college or for work or things like that.
Hmm.
When I compare that to traditional C players, they didn't really have that. I mean, from day one, I had a player called Skembulu in my team. He always had the support and he always had an organization or something like that since he was 14 or 13. He had people who recognized the talent in him and gave him that opportunity. But there were people like Negi and Pasol who went for years displaying the same amount of talent but didn't receive any support from anyone else because the platform wasn't there. Because till 2 years ago, we didn't have an ESL India Premiership and we didn't have Neon Esports and we didn't have ClouDx Gaming and things like that
Hmm.
where they could live off their winnings. They used to go down to tournaments at their own expense to win 75,000 rupees, for example.
Yeah, but I mean that's
And
also that's also because prize pools were small and honestly
price
they
pools are
didn't need
small
to.
and there wasn't enough to compete for in order to sustain
I
yourself in the long.
think,
The sustainability becomes a factor over here. You can
but
do it for a while, but
your
you have to commit to
sustainability
things.
is only a factor because, and with all due respect, you're not good enough. If you're good enough, you can play a Southeast Asian tournament, you can qualify and win the actual big money which is out there. That requires an internet connection, a PC, and maybe a couple of slaps and scoldings from your parents while you're playing at home. I don't think I genuinely I'm completely for having a team that's supported right now, but it's a very slippery slope we're walking right now because if that support doesn't pan out and doesn't actually transition into international success for this team, not just Signify, for even something like an RG Titans that's supported, and even if Entity was an Indian squad and was supported, um, it's gonna basically leave a sour taste in a lot of people's mouth. It's going to essentially turn into, either you became an international success or you managed to make enough noise that you're making enough money out of being India's best. So if India's best has some sort of
That
a
by no
value to
means
add to it,
is, yeah, that by no means in today's date, when I'm talking about the days when the platform and infrastructure is not there, in today's date, that is not sustainable by
what
any means.
I'm curious though. What do you mean by?
How long can you go by being India's best, for example?
Yeah, exactly. I'm in agreement with you. I think being India's best is not worth squat right now. It's good. It's a nice feather to have in your cap, but it's not monetizable. It's not a sustainable business to just be India's
Yeah.
best team right now.
We can't let alone the business dynamics. I don't think there's enough to compete for at this point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. When you try and play for the big money, you're now asking the question: Are you Southeast Asia's best? And the counter question to that is: does being paid to play, does having the boot camp actually help you become Southeast Asia's best, or does it add that much of a value add as opposed to you just playing from your home and being good enough?
More than being home and being good enough, I would say it's not just the boot camp and the salary that the platform offers. I would say it's the ability to be able to dedicate yourselves completely to this and put aside other commitments which might get in your way. I mean, I speak to a lot of people right now, people who you could say, have reached close to retirement age where they can't make it anymore. And they would look back and say, yeah, maybe back in the day, if I had the support in the form that I could do this completely and be able to do this for a long time and dedicate myself completely to this game, maybe I'd be somewhere else. Or maybe I would be on the Southeast Asian map for now. And that's what people say. That's what I get to hear when I speak to people that were players back in the day and missed out on the opportunity, and what they would give to just be part of the circuit right now, where they could dedicate themselves completely to this.
Okay.
And that's basically what I think India is trying to build right now.
You
The
know,
ability for
that
people
sets a
to
very scary precedent though, because now, for better or for worse, we're all in agreement that it's signify or bust in India at least, right? We kind of, Vivek and I talk about this a lot, and we're like,
I mean, this is the
look,
furthest we've gone.
if there's a team that can take it to the next level, it's Signify right now. But the predicament there is, what about the remainder of the whatever 1.5 million Dota players that are there? What the fuck are you guys doing? Get off your asses, try and beat these guys before you consider actually calling yourself a pro. I mean, you see a lot of people coming out and saying, "Oh, I'm a pro player. I'm an aspiring pro player. I'm a personality." But you're not doing shit
Yeah.
if you can't
Yeah.
take down India's best at the very least, and then consider becoming an international personality. It's
I mean, as Signify, that's basically what our aim is. We are not satisfied at all with being where we are right now. We're always aiming for something higher. We want to be competing amongst the best in Southeast Asia and then be able to go further from there also. And similarly, I would say people that are not where we are right now have to look at us like, okay, we need to be Signify, we need to get to Southeast Asia, and we need to do well over there as well. Which is what I saw. I saw some signs of promise in Aggressive 5. They
Yeah.
were also not happy just being able to beat Signify once in a while and becoming second in India. You could see there was a hunger and the desire where they also wanted to be well known in Southeast Asia and be able to play amongst the best teams.
Hey Vivek,
And
whatever
that's
happened to Shabazz from Aggressive 5, Pinkman?
He
he's playing in Wipeout. No?
was
He's
last
still
playing
playing.
with Milky Deliverance.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're playing Worlds of Gaming. They had a match, I think, yesterday, day before.
So yeah, I mean,
They're still there. Yeah, I mean,
from what I've
mm,
understood, Ramses is now part of ROG Titans. I think this
can,
is.
can someone ask him to change his name, please? There is already a very famous Ramses out there. Please be
Do,
original.
there is.
do you know what he did
I
to
think he
rub it
goes by
in? Hold on. Today he changed his display picture on Facebook to that Ramses. And I mean, he's trying to sneak into VP. It's a sneak attack. He's going to walk in a ghillie suit.
No. He's a very entertaining guy, I have to say.
I mean,
He's really a fun guy to hang around.
yeah, I think two players that have shown a lot of promise, and I'm hoping to see a lot more from are Ramses and Paddling. I'm really curious to see what these players do. They need to find.
Paddling has sort of taken a step back. He's going to finish his studies. He's taken a break from Dota, professional Dota,
Okay,
to finish his degree.
okay.
Yeah, there's paddling. There's
When does this degree get over?
this year, sometime later this year.
Okay, so no paddling this
Yeah.
year. Damn.
I think
No,
he's going to have some
there's
sort of capacity. He's going to
there
be
will be
he's going to be
because
at the Northeast Esports Championship in some of the other capacity. I mean, I know he went on stage and sort of inaugurated it and stuff, but
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
I don't know in what
I was
capacity.
just going to get to that. He's going to be there, and also we have in the ClouDx Masters. It's going to go down to Kohima. There's a local qualifier for Kohima as well, and I'm really expecting to see paddling there. I mean, if I go to Kohima and I don't see paddling there, I'm going to be very disappointed.
I mean,
Yeah, he's a local boy. He's well known out there. He's basically right. Paddling gets There's a funny story that Pascal once told me. I mean, we were looking at the post on Aggressify's page, and there'd be like a photo album that says Media Day at so and so event. The album itself would have like 2 likes or 3 likes. Then you go down to Paddling's photo and you have like 40 likes or 45 likes over there and like hundreds of people commenting and saying Paddling God and this and that. And I asked Pascal why this is, and Pascal told me he's the poster boy for Northeast India when it comes to Dota 2. According to them, he's a player that's made it, and he's one of the pro players we have out there. And they're very passionate about Dota 2 and CS:GO in Northeast. So I would be really surprised if I don't see Paddling playing a big role in the Northeast Championship and at the Kohima qualifiers for ClouDx.
I like that. I hope we see more such talents being discovered from the Northeast. I mean, for me last year, the two players that I thought showed a lot of promise were Paddling and Ramses Akshay. I mean, they were both like I remember. I mean, for the longest time, I've not seen Crowley lose a lane, and then I saw Paddling beat Crowley multiple times, at least once or twice when Aggressify took on Signify. I mean, the very fact that he could break even or even come close to winning his lane gave Aggressify the edge they needed in those matches. And yeah, Ramses.
I mean, you pick Viper, man.
Hey, no, wait. It wasn't
That was one
it.
patch
No,
that
no,
was
no, no. Hold
there.
on. It
That was an
wasn't just
amazing.
Viper. I've seen him in Necroforce versus Puck. Okay, I mean, like this could go either way. Necroforce versus Puck
So
is not a one-sided
I
matchup.
wanna add Pinkman to that list as well. Paddling Pinkman as well. Because Pinkman was one of the primary reasons why Paddling would have such a good time in the middle lane.
Yeah.
I think the guy was
I
making
think
some.
you guys are really forgetting the role Nagy had in that team, where he was able to win his lane or at least break even in his lane when the rest of the team just left him aside in one corner of the map and went around doing their business. That's an ability very few players have.
I agree. I think Negi is and was extremely skilled in the laning stage at least. Back then though, I felt like Negi was the guy that would without a doubt throw the game come mid game phase.
Yes,
That Negi has
that was
Negi has
he has
matured and
matured. Yeah.
he's managed to put his head back on his shoulders. But in aggressive five, that's what he was. He was aggressive number one in
I
aggressive five.
think
The guy was
that's the reason. That's the reason they had to switch up. Right? They sent him to the safe lane instead of keeping him mid because they knew that they could not leave this guy alone at mid otherwise because he would do something and they end up losing the game. Yeah, that's what he was known for back then.
Yeah. I think
And yeah, I'm really impressed by the way he's improved over time, the way he's learned from all these experienced guys. Because he's sort of a newcomer. I mean, he's been playing for a long time, but into the professional scene, was sort of a newcomer, and then you throw him into all these different roles and you ask him to do something different each and every time. And somehow he's able to build on that experience that he gets from the other players and eventually dominate that one lane.
I have an extremely bitter and hard question to ask, but it's a question we've got to ask ourselves. I mean, Indian esports is having a lot of tournaments this year. There's a lot of prize money to be won, which is great. I mean, it's good. There's money, but are we just really celebrating mediocrity? Is this doing us actually any good in the long run?
Um, That's a very hard question if you ask me. It's a super
I think I
hard
heard my
question.
wife calling me. I think I'm gonna go check what she's up.
No, you. I mean,
Um,
okay. Now let's see.
Okay.
Last year we had Aggressify step up. We had Buriza step up and beat Aggressify at Taiwan Excellence.
Slow down. Vivek, these are still like this is still like talking about the Ranji Trophy B team beating a Ranji Trophy C team. It's not the premium level of Indian cricket or Indian esports. What's happening though is, like you said, organizers are realizing that they've so far been incentivizing mediocrity, and whether or not it helps the team's cause, it doesn't help their cause for getting viewership, spectators, and eyeballs. Which is why you're seeing organizations now looking outside. When the prize money gets to the point where it's incentive enough for international teams to compete, your tournament automatically becomes an international tournament. ESL India Premiership, a total prize pool of 1 crore. ClouDx Masters, a total prize pool of 1 crore, explicitly coming out and saying it's a Southeast Asia tournament. We know that UCypher has been exploring the opportunity to go international in some form or the other. We know that there are a few other potential organizers on the SCA
I
circuit
don't
looking to
think
do
we
con-
knew that, but okay.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's all just hearsay right
Whispers.
now.
Yeah. Okay.
it's hearsay, but this is something I'm really looking forward to.
It's some,
Honestly, it's
exactly.
something I'm really looking forward to. Southeast Asian teams coming down to India next year for the ESL India Premiership, for ClouDx Masters, for any other significant prize pool that we have, and the opportunity for our Indian boys to go head to head with them.
Do
I mean,
you think that would help
seen
us
these
get better?
results.
You think that will help us? I mean,
Here's how I think it's going to happen in the long term. We'll have more players coming in out of the dark who will be able to take this up full time and say, yeah, this is what we want to do. More talent, basically. I mean, talent. I have this belief that there's a lot of hidden talent we have in India. We haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
And I expect that in the long term, things like this is going to cause the talent to come out of their shells and sort of perform on these big stages.
Okay.
And that's what's going to help us improve as a country in the long run.
Hmm. I mean, I don't know if this will result in hidden talent coming out. But if you take a look
I
at
mean,
CS,
look at it this way.
risky top team, one of the top teams. They've been coming to ESL. They thrashed us 2 seasons in a row. Nothing changed really. I mean, until Entity decided to shake things up, and we yet to see whether that's really going to have any long-lasting effect.
I mean, who was it? Entity Eternal that went out and beat Mineski?
Yeah, so I was there. That was technically it's very confusing, but I'm going to say current Invictus. That's the best way to put it.
Invictus.
That was Eternal after they left Entity.
Okay, you know what? Let's not go down that.
Okay. So you know what? I mean, I was there. I was personally standing behind those players, and I think like Indian CS is in a slightly different position, and we won't go into a complete breakdown of Indian CS because we're not experts. But just like how Indian Dota and Signify is challenging Tier 2 and is very well Tier 2, Indian CS is getting to challenge Tier 2, and I think we can. But let's leave Indian CS aside. You say, Ahuja, that I mean, if teams from Southeast Asia come, the Indian teams will get better playing versus them. One is the prize money.
No. That's not what I said. I mean, that could happen, but what I also see happening is that when someone, let's say, we see that we have a total prize pool worth 2 crores or 2.5 crores in the upcoming year. You have more organizations supporting players that are not that well known at this point. Take someone like Akshay or Ramses, for example. He came out of the Buriza's academy and now he's playing for ROG Titans. So you have people supporting these players that people are not well aware of because there is some prize pool to compete for. And that's where you'll find one or two hidden gems that eventually will go on to play at the high stage. I mean, it's very complicated what I'm saying, but what I'm saying is when people see that there's a lot to play for, when organizations start supporting players that are not well known, they start investing in players that have the promise and the talent but are not known to the circuit, haven't broken into the circuit yet. I want to see a lot of more of that happening in the next year.
Okay.
So we have teams like small organizations like Reckoning and Reckoning Infinity, for example, who have players playing for them that people haven't, some known players, some unknown players, for example. I'm hoping one of these unknown players that comes out of these smaller teams like that goes on to play for the professional teams because he is that talented.
I mean, so again, like,
and that will only happen, right, if there is a large enough prize pools for organizations to consider to support the players. Yeah, and coming back to what you said about risky and things like that,
but will these teams just take part just so that they can win some money and just be happy winning money, or will they actually try and improve? Like,
I think that's what's happened so far. I think.
I mean, Reckoning Infinity's been Stand 5. Stand 5 has been there since the existence of time. They just come every ESL, and I mean, they played versus everyone, but we haven't seen them go up. Reckoning Infinity.
You haven't seen these set of players go up, but my point is that you will find a couple of players that come from these teams who have the talent. For example, you see players that are on the leaderboards right now. We have, other than the 6 players that are in Signify, we have a couple of other names out there as well.
I know Gene Pandya. That's it.
Not going there.
Okay.
My team has a lot to say about that guy, but I'm not going there. But my point is, I hope to see more players that are on the leaderboards and are high MMR players that haven't got the opportunity to put aside whatever they're doing right now and dedicate themselves completely.
Yeah.
I want to see that opportunity coming in the next year, and hopefully that will happen because of the exorbitant prize pools and teams coming into India.
Okay.
And coming back to what you said about risky gaming coming into India, beating us, and then going back happily. We had risky coming in, but I would like teams like Mineski, teams like the other well-known teams like 5 Power Gaming from China, and other Southeast Asian CS:GO teams and Dota teams, because then they can consider the prize pool as large enough to support themselves, and then makes it worthwhile for them to come to India, pay for that prize pool, and go back. And hopefully that's what we see this year. For example, I don't want teams like IQ and things like that coming to India because they already do. But if you have people like TP and ND, for example, coming to India, or someone like Neon Esports coming to India,
Hmm.
that is something that will definitely make a difference.
Yeah, I agree. I think the IQ was a one-off, Cinderella story where they crowdfunded and came through. But if India, I spoke about this as well, that NIT Raipur thing that I did. But over there, I, I talked about how India is probably going to evolve into a destination for Indian esports as opposed to a hub that produces great Indian esports talent. And I still stand by that. I think we're going to be. It's sort of like the IPL, right? Sure, IPL is the most sought after property to play cricket in today across the world. I think India has the resources, has the business acumen, and to a certain extent has the flair as well to pull something like that off. I'm not very confident that we're going to produce 5x Signify type teams with 15 great players, but that's okay. It's still a thriving ecosystem, but in a very
It's
different way.
still yeah. So to build on your analogy, I would say, to answer the question that we are looking to answer, we have to look at how much the IPL helped the Indian national cricket team, for example.
Mhm.
The opportunity that, let's say, Indian players got to play with experienced international players in the Indian Premier League. How did it build up that? How it went on to help the Indian team build up the talent pool and the people that are playing for them now?
Yeah, but I mean, sure, in cricket, because you actually need to be on the same field, but in Dota, they can do that right now. I mean, they do it right now every time they click
Theoretically,
find match.
uh, theoretically, yeah, but playing in the team and playing in the game pub is very different.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
of
I mean,
course.
Yeah.
I'd say
It.
the barriers are a lot different. I don't think I.
Okay. Look at it this way. So I can tell you that my players, Moin and Ronak, have learned a lot from the foreign players that came into India, for example.
Yeah.
They learned a lot from someone like Owa, who had the experience, who's played for a number of years. They did learn a bit from him. Moin, for example, playing the support role, did pick up a few things from Owa,
Hmm.
right? And I would definitely say he's at a better game. He's playing a much better game now than he was when he joined Signify, for example, when he didn't have the same exposure as to playing. At the end of the day, it's experience. For the player, experience is all that counts.
Hmm.
And if you can build off that experience positively, why not? If you can help it to improve your game and help you go one step further.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm
But
completely in agreement with that. But my point is, I don't think you need an IPL to make that happen. You need a team that's willing to, either you need a team like Signify to bring them in and make them play together, which you've already done, or you need to find a bunch of like-minded folks while you're queuing for a game. It's think about it. When
Yeah.
Zenith existed, Zenith was a Malaysian plus Singaporean team. Geek Fam has players from Philippines and what have you. TNC, sure, now they're all Filipino, but up until a while ago they
Yeah.
were a mixed bag. Fnatic, for that matter, Mineski, they're all
Yeah.
mixed bags. It doesn't need to be an Indian team. It doesn't need to particularly be all five players from one country, and that's the beauty of esports. You don't have a bat, you don't have a ball, you don't sit on the
Yep.
same
I
field.
think, yeah, it's also like football clubs, for example. Yeah, you don't have an English club. There's players from all over the world. And
Yeah, and that's
similarly, yeah.
with the guys needing to be in the same field, basically. So
Yeah. But yeah, coming back to this, I'm thinking long term. I mean, we look at our Indian Dota players and we had the same 10 players who have been playing for multiple, long time.
and
yeah,
that's
I
sad.
want to see. I want to see the list. I want to see the list increase. I want to see more players in that list.
yeah.
I wanted to go from 10 players to maybe 30 players or 40 players.
I mean,
And yeah, I
Which
mean,
is
you look
why
at Philippines, for
I
example.
was so
yeah.
excited when Nazara made their PR and said we're going to do a grassroots level campaign. We're going to identify new players and all that. So I've still
Yeah,
got my
that's
fingers
also
crossed.
that's also what
Hoping for
Kobex
that.
is doing. I mean, Kobex is going down to cafes in 10 cities. I mean, I really am very optimistic that we will find Indian talent over there. We will find someone who is talented, has the potential to play and give the 10 guys that we have in Indian Dota right now a tough fight, and maybe break into the scene.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
actually, you spoke of this grassroots program in Cobex and cafes. Remember there is hidden talent. I think I do agree with Ahuja. I mean, there was this guy in my cafe. We used to just play Dota 1, okay? There was no concept of MMR. Then Dota 2 came and he played Dota 2, but before MMR was introduced in Dota 2. And now he brings up Dota and he calibrates at 5K, which is, he hits 5K. And I think there are many more of these players. I mean, a lot of the top players in India after Signify are around that in terms of MMR. And
Yeah,
I,
but with
I
all due
mean,
respect, that's potato,
that's
man.
that it
5K is
is
not
it
enough
it
to.
is potato internationally, but maybe 5K is where they start. Maybe they do progress. You don't start at 8K, you don't start at 9K. 5K is a good start. I mean, we need more of these 5Ks to become 7Ks and 8Ks if you just put numerical values to it. But I think there are a lot of people who were good at the game, who are good at the game, but never
I
were
mean,
discovered.
the point I'm trying to make is it doesn't matter. You find whether you find a 5K and 8K or whatever, it really doesn't matter because Indian esports is going to keep charging forward regardless of whether or not we find good talent. We're just going to do what we do best. We're going to import the good talent. We're going to have events that the good talent would
So
want to come and
are you
play
saying
here.
we are going to become a country of like quality tournaments and mediocre players?
Yes, I think so.
Hmm.
I think
I think I
I
think
mean,
yeah,
we
that might
we
happen to a large extent, but we will have a few players who break into the international
Of
scene.
course, we won't be. So, for example, when you think of something like the United States, right, you have at least 15 to 30 players you can think of that can compete at some level on the international circuit. In India, there's five. And I don't see, for the last 4 years, that
And
number
and and
hasn't
my
increased by much.
my point is that yeah, the last 4 years it hasn't increased a lot, but let's see 2 3 years down the line. My suspect is things like this: when you build the platform, when you build the ecosystem, the list will increase. That's about all I'm saying.
you're
I don't
saying
know.
that
I mean, I'm a
you're saying that
skeptic
if we have
positive
more
because,
tournaments, there are higher odds that good players might just emerge. Is that what you're saying? Like
Yeah,
there are higher
yeah,
chances that more team you're saying maybe the numbers will favor the chance of a good team being discovered. Maybe I don't know.
good
I mean, if
players
it
more than
happens,
anything
great.
else.
No one is upset if that happens. That's a good thing, right? My point is,
Yeah.
even if it doesn't happen, we're fine. Indian esports is going
No,
to be
yeah, yeah, we're fine. I mean, yeah, no one's saying that. Yeah, yeah, but then when you look at a plain numbers game, you have 210 million gamers in India. I
What?
refuse to believe that they're
One
just
second.
for good.
How many?
We have 210 million gamers in India. Video gamers. Okay, that's a very large extent. That doesn't include esports or Dota or anything like that. We have 210 video gamers in India. I refuse to believe that only four have what it takes to compete at the highest level.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. That and the reason for that is maybe they haven't built a system that's sustainable enough for these players to emerge. And when you build a system that's there, you build a platform, the number greater proportion of the 210 billion, you might find a couple of more that have what it takes to compete at the highest level.
I think that's a. I don't think that's the right way to look at it because if you examine that 210 number, it's probably got like a whole bunch of fringe games as well, which are not esport titles. So
Okay, so
the true
okay, how
number
many
would
Dota
be.
players are there in India, for example?
So I would estimate Dota Counter Strike together would have about 1.5 million, at least bought, purchased
Yeah,
slash created accounts, right?
and only four have what it takes to compete at the highest level out of 1.5 million.
That's the point, right?
No, come on. That
We're a
list has to
nation
go up.
full of idiot Dota and Counter Strike players. That's the problem, and I
We
don't
might
think
be
any.
full of it. We might be full of it, but the number that can compete at the highest level is definitely more than four.
I would hope so, but I'm an eternal skeptic now because it's taken 4 years and we've had five players coming out. So okay, you know what? I'm being a little harsh. I don't think five players is fair. I think RG Titans is a good team as well, and they've got a
Okay,
lot of
ten.
potential. So let's say 10.
Okay, even 10 out of even 500,000 is nothing.
Well, that's the scenario though. That's how it is, right? If it wasn't, you'd
It
have
is like that right now,
a,
but my
a
hope is
big-
that it's going to change.
Okay.
Look at Philippines, for example. Philippines, I mean, we scrim with teams that people have never heard of before. But I'm telling you, there are players in there that have what it takes to beat the likes of TNC.
yeah, but Philippines
Players, not
has
teams.
I mean, SE
Yeah,
is
why can't we be another Philippines?
but
Why can't we be
Philippines has
another?
a lot more Dota players. So let me give you a quick
So
comparison.
let's say Philippines has 50 players, we'd have 20, 30, which is definitely more than 5 or 4.
so
So
are you saying we have players and they've not been discovered? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes, we have been discovered.
Philippines has like 5 times more, at least 5 times more, way more than 5 times more Dota players than India
Okay.
today. So even then, like the number of people that compete at the highest level is still proportionate to what it is in India, more or less.
Yeah, another thing that we're missing out is the age factor. Yeah, let's say someone who is 13 or 14 now who hasn't broken into the scene yet. At some point, they are going to come out, right? At some point, maybe someone like No Chance or Crowley, or for example, there's
Moon.
going to be someone younger.
Moon. He's
Moon.
lurking in
Moon.
chat as well.
He's lurking
Moon.
in chat. Moon.
Yeah,
Moon.
no, but
Moon is
my
next,
point
Rowley.
is, yeah, look at it in the long term. These 10 players also have to be replaced, right? That we have now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah. And things like this are only going to help. That's my point. It's not going to do any worse. It's just going to help.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but I don't know where this discussion is going anymore because honestly, I think we're in agreement that if it happens, it's a good thing, but if it doesn't happen, we're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, folks, I think that's about it for the day. Sorry that we did start off a bit late. We did have a power outage in the entire area. If anyone in audience has got anyone in chat, excuse me, has any questions for either ClouDx or Nishant Ahuja, do shoot and chat.
You can ask Vivek.
So actually, I didn't expect such an intellectually challenging discussion about Indian esports and things like that. It's actually quite fun.
And there's a lot more. We'll continue on Sunday at our
Yes.
local club.
I love how you didn't name it.
The
I
pinkies
love
out. We will drink water with a pinky.
I absolutely love how he refused to name the club.
I can name the club, but actually, ClouDx is actually quite sensitive as to giving out where he lives.
Fair
That's why I
enough, but
don't
I
name it.
think at most, I wouldn't be surprised if the people already know which club we're talking about.
Hey, wait, you're in the Netherlands. I just forgot. Sorry. So yeah,
We'll Skype you from the club.
we'll Skype you from the club.
I'll be back very soon. Don't worry.
Okay.
Comeback is real. I see a comment on chat, by the way. India has a lot of hidden talent. My friend, whether it be generic sports or esports, all the best players are engineers or doctors.
Yeah, true.
Okay.
I
Okay.
mean,
Wait. Moon has a question, and this is a question that ClouDx has actually experienced. How do I manage between Dota and school?
I mean, you play Dota after school. How hard is that?
You
hey,
fail
it's
school.
not-
You play Dota after school. Why is that so difficult? man?
So, let me tell you what happens. I mean, I told you guys the story before, but I have a player called Negi in my team. This guy goes to college every single day at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. or whatever. But the point is, he travels from Dahisar East to Bandra to go to college, goes to the entire day in college, and somehow makes it back to the boot camp at 5:30 in the evening for scrims or whatever, and then goes back home again to Dahisar East in the night, and then goes to college again the next
From
morning.
Andheri to Dahisar.
He
Wait,
goes, yeah, he
wait.
travels from our boot camp to Dahisar, yeah, which is fair distance, which is quite far.
Okay.
He travels by train or things like that. But yeah, the point is he's able to go to college, come to the boot camp, play scrims, go back home, and go back to college again the next day, simply because he's that determined.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. There's
Yeah.
no excuse. Honestly, you can't say that. Oh, I want to quit school to be a full-time gamer. That's not happening, and it shouldn't happen.
I mean,
You should.
it will get complicated if you want to become an engineer or things like that. But we have someone like, yeah, we have Marzal, for example, who's doing engineering and
Who?
managing to Marzal from Entity Gaming,
Oh, okay.
one of the most talented CS players in India that I have seen.
Yeah.
And yeah, I watched his stream a couple of times, and that guy does engineering, and we play able to play Dota at the same time.
Yeah.
He
Even.
has it. Yeah, I remember he mentioned on stream that his college is understanding if he misses a couple of classes or exams if he's going for events, things like that. But yeah, he manages. He does it.
Mhm.
I'm doing it, for example. I'm still doing my studies and I'm managing a team. There's no excuse. I mean, you just got to do what you got to do. You have to be disciplined. Balaji, for example, is still doing engineering exams and he is one of the best players in the country.
Mhm. I
The
mean,
best, at least according to our list.
According to your list, yeah. He has had a good year.
okay.
Yeah, but he also goes back occasionally to do exams. Which is
Uh,
another reason why he got in a sixth
YouTuber
because-
Karan has a question, by the way.
Yeah.
He's good with Pudge, ES, and CM. He gets haters when he tries to play carry. Can you suggest a good beginner carry?
That's hard, man.
Offlane Aquaden.
I think in this case the mute button is your best friend, bro. Just play what the fuck you want.
Yeah,
Mute
yeah.
everyone
I
that
mean,
disagrees. Have fun,
Arey,
man.
so I'll tell you this really funny thing that happened once. So, we were in the boot camp and Crowley was getting flagged for picking a wrong hero, was trying something new, trying a different role, just like same problems that you're experiencing now. And then suddenly I see he's really frustrated, and then I see that no one's talking in his team and no one's communicating and no one's pinging and nothing is happening. I'm like, what is happening? He's like, "Yeah, चीज try कर रहा हूँ मैं. I'm trying to play Dota by after muting 9 players." 9 players. Yeah, he said something like that. It was really funny.
I mean, fun fact, all of us we play a lot of Dota together. Vivek, Nishant, me, and a few others. And I mean, they know this as well. Many times I end up muting Vivek in the game as well while we're playing.
Lies.
So I mute Vivek, I mute Floki, I mute Lucy, I mute a lot of our own stack people because sometimes they can be annoying. Just do the same, man. If you want to play your carry, mute them and play.
Okay.
Yeah, but don't think that this is going to end at any MMR bracket. It happens to the best
Yeah.
players in Southeast Asia also, where they have to mute 9 players and play Dota sometimes.
This question for Ahuja. Does having to grind through the qualifiers help at all to close the gap between Signify and Tier 2 teams?
100%. 100% playing open qualifiers if you're a good team is your best friend. The kind of teams you come up against sometimes when they throw these random things at you, something that you never expected, and something that you'll only find in an open qualifier, for example. Yeah, that sometimes when you go back and watch the replay, you learn quite a few things.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would say anyone, if you guys are determined, play an open qualifier. It doesn't cost you anything other than time. And
Yeah.
think of it this way, that you get an opportunity to play against a good team, if nothing else.
Gambit has a question for you, Vivek.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. I unboxed my first unusual, but actually, caterpillar jumped out and ate my pet frog
Oh
Bobido.
my god.
I tried to make caterpillar do vomit, but instead he only burp and Bobido's smell came out, but no Bobido. Can help. Eat the caterpillar. I don't know. And then you try vomiting. Maybe then Bobido comes out. I
This
don't
just
know.
reminds me of something RTC would get on the stream, you know?
That's actually my copy paste. I take full credit for that. Okay, I posted it on like I think Vishal Gupta's wall, and then he went and posted it on someone else's wall, and then he went and posted it on someone else's wall, and now it's back.
Yeah. This is something RTC would get on his stream. And
Okay.
then-
ClouDx, question for you.
Karika says Indian Dota Part 2 when? That's actually for you, Vivek.
I mean, yeah.
We have some retarded ideas in the works, right? That you're
So,
working on.
Yeah, I think I'll share it on stream and I might as well give it out there. So, I mean, Karikasa's Dhruv was an ad that we made. Uh, if you want us to make a part two, we will make a part two. But right now, we're working on something where the five of us from AFK, with a rotating guest every now and then, will be streaming our games, just talking about issues in esports in India and across the world. It's going to be called Men of Culture, and hopefully it should be starting next week. There's going to be an ad for that as well. That should be fun. Do let us know if you'd be interested in something like this. We are going to push forth with it. A long time ago, there was something called the AFK Crab Stack that Nishant used to stream, and now we're going to be streaming our 5-man AFK stack, and yeah, you can catch
playing
ClouDx
Dota, I
meeting
think
me.
those games are very entertaining.
Huh? Those games?
Those 5-man,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
those games are very entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're interested in watching, it's not high quality Dota by any means, but it's just 5 guys having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It can be quite entertaining.
So yeah,
Don't expect to learn anything from this team. Don't expect to be educational. In fact, what you should be doing is the exact opposite of what we do in our games. But yeah, it is a lot of fun to watch. Sometimes I just hop onto their Discord to just see what's happening and who's flaming whom.
Lots of PMA though, lots of PMA.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all
fun.
friends. So
I mean,
yeah,
I think the best part about having a job in esports is getting together and playing games together. That's the best part for me. But yeah, so we're going to be doing that and we're going to be streaming that. I don't know if there's going to be a Curry Caster part 2, but maybe I might just try and think about part 2 then.
Coming back to the whole having a job in esports and all, what I would say is the best thing that I've learned from this is that the community is always willing to help each other out. People say that the community is toxic and the community doesn't help you and people are all skeptics and everyone's looking out for themselves. I refuse to believe that. My experience, at least, I'm always willing to lend a helping hand to someone.
Do you think the global community is helpful, or do you think the Indian community is helpful as well?
I would say.
I mean, I know.
I would say the esports community in general, especially the close-knit community that we have in India, where if you know someone, you almost know everyone. You see the same faces at every LAN event, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a good thing going for us. We're always willing to help each other out.
Yeah. I mean,
be it players, managers, organizations, organizers, casters, everyone's willing to look out for each other.
Yeah, I mean it's a nice warm fuzzy thing we've got going on. Honestly, it's not like
I mean every time there's a LAN, it's such a It's a
There's
nice, happy occasion happening. People meeting after a long time. Like, how's it going, man?
Yeah, I
Long
mean,
time no see.
all
Yeah,
all
let's
the
look
Dota
forward to a very cool
players,
event.
the Dota players are definitely bum jumps. I don't know about CS and what's going on over there very well, but yeah, everybody in the Dota community is really close. All the players pretty much know each other personally. I
It was
even
quite
on the
funny, and yeah, because people used to assume that there was this crazy competition going on between Aggressive 5 and Signify. But yeah, if you go back to one of those lands and all, you see what good friends they are, and everyone is just having fun.
yeah,
And
Yeah,
everyone,
I
even
think
between the BO3 series, people would talk to each other and flame each other casually.
it was
We
a
should have done
great
better.
storyline to have, and I honestly, I'm really hoping that obviously I'm sure you're not hoping for it, but I'm really hoping that someone can come and actually give you guys some hardcore competition, at least at Indian events.
I, I
That's
really, I really want that. I mean, yeah, we cannot be comfortable where we are at right now. That's why we keep pushing ourselves to compete and see. But yeah, there's more talent coming out of India. That's great.
I think ROG Titans will. I think with
I
I
really
Ramses.
hope.
I
I
really
mean,
hope so.
Bari also had this joke where, for example, every time I meet Bari, and I always ask this question, Bari, how is your practice
For
going?
those of
Practice
you
kaisa chal?
that don't know, Bari is that is Bug from ROG Titans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and every time I'd ask him because I never see these guys screaming, right? Sometimes I've seen them screaming very rarely, and I would always ask him, Bari, you guys should scream. Why aren't you screaming? And how's the practice going and things like that. And he'd say, you care more about my practice than I do sometimes. Yeah, and one day we were talking casually on Discord. He's telling Moin Nishan मेरे को ज़्यादा पूछता है practice कैसे चल रहा है क्यों चल रहा है. But yeah, they are a team which is very talented. I think.
Have you
Yeah,
played the new ROG?
no, we haven't.
Is
I think the last time we
I,
played
I,
was by faith we got matched with ROG in the first round of an open qualifier for DAC. I think or
yeah,
Swifty was still in
DSC.
that.
Oh yeah. That was still when Swifty was there, correct? But you haven't played them since Ramses has joined, right? Okay.
And yeah,
Okay.
that's still a good team, I would say.
Okay.
Still a good team. Yeah, yeah.
I
Start with
think
this.
that's about it. Me, ClouDx, and Nishant Ahuja can keep blabbering for ages. But it's already been a good 2 hours. I can do this for another 3 hours with you guys, but I think we're gonna call it a night. And yeah, that's it as far as today's broadcast is concerned. But folks, on Friday we're going to be having Noya and Heshtajo joining me. We're going to be talking about all things Southeast Asian Dota, about the new entity lineup, the new fifth, how Europe is different from SE, some of the topics that we're going to be touching upon. Do tune in. That's at 8:30 p.m. SGT, that's Singapore time, and 7:30, 6:30, 6 p.m. IST. 6 in the evening, Indian Standard Time, for those of you Indian viewers out there. That's on Friday. That's day after tomorrow. That's it for today, though. Thank you, CloudX. Thank you, Uja, for jumping in. And thanks to all the people in chat for hanging around as well. See you soon with another episode of Time Lapse. Good night.
See you, Vivek.
See you.